A beautiful, talented 16-year-old girl reports sexual harassment by a Navy officer. Months later, she's murdered in her own home, stabbed over 40 times. Everyone's convinced it's revenge. But when the DNA of suspect number 1 doesn't match, police hit a dead end. The real killer isn't the obvious suspect. He's someone no one suspected. A talented violin virtuoso, a model student, someone the victim considered like family. What turned a gentle teenager into a brutal murderer? Welcome to the Case Files, where we unravel the darkest mysteries hidden beneath ordinary lives. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of Portsmouth, Virginia's most shocking murder investigations. In this episode, we're taking a deep dive into the infamous case of the Portsmouth dancer murder, the Robert Barnes case, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators are those we trust the most. Part 1. Background and Key Figures. The Port City and the Dancing Girl. Portsmouth, Virginia, a peaceful port city in the southeast United States, home to the U.S. Navy Fleet and Coast Guard. This is where thousands of military families live, a tight-knit community built on trust. But in the spring of 2008, that sense of safety would be shattered by an unimaginable act of violence. Meghan Landowski, 16, was a talented dancer and honors student at Churchland High School. This beautiful girl with long, flowing hair wasn't just exceptional in ballet. She was beloved by friends and teachers for her sweet, innocent, and intelligent personality. Meghan lived with her stepfather, Chris Short, a hospital corpsman first class in the Navy, her mother Angela Short, and 2 other siblings. Before moving to Portsmouth, Meghan's family had lived for a year at the Guantanamo Bay military base in Cuba. When they returned to the U.S., Meghan was thrilled to sign up for dance classes, a passion she hadn't been able to pursue in Cuba. Life seemed to be opening up bright opportunities for this talented teenager. But fate had written a different ending. A shadow from the recent past. In late 2007, when Meghan was just 15, she did something incredibly brave, but also dangerous. She reported sexual abuse by Robert Hicka, a Navy lieutenant junior grade, and her stepfather's best friend. Hicka was a married man with 4 children, once honored as Sailor of the Year, and considered by Chris Short like a brother. The Shorts had taken Meghan to the Portsmouth police station to file a report, and Sergeant Robert McDaniel, a special investigator for sex crimes, took the case. According to McDaniel, Hickey had been grooming Meghan for some time. However, the case faced complex legal barriers. In Virginia, the age of consent for sexual activity is 15, so under state law, Hickey's actions were only considered a misdemeanor. But because Hicka was military, the case was transferred to NCIS, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, the Navy's criminal investigation agency, because under military regulations, the age of consent is 16, not 15. If convicted, Hickey would lose his job, his retirement benefits, and face prison time. The case was being prepared for court-martial, and Meghan would be the key witness. Before the trial, she asked Sergeant McDaniel a question full of worry. "Will he come back and retaliate against me?" McDaniel reassured her. "No, you'll be safe. That only happens on TV." But just a few months later, that answer would haunt him for the rest of his life. Part 2. The Murder and the Horrific Crime Scene. April 10, 2008. That morning, Angela Short dropped Meghan off at school like any other day. The 16-year-old stepped out of the car, waved goodbye to her mother, and disappeared into the noisy stream of students. No one knew that would be the last time Angela would see her daughter alive. Around 4 p.m., Chris Short, Meghan's stepfather, returned home after his shift at the naval base. The moment he walked in, he sensed something was wrong. The front door was unlocked, and the air inside the house was eerily silent. "Meghan! Meghan!" Chris called out, but no one answered. He walked into the kitchen. And then, the scene before him froze him in shock. Meghan lay motionless on the floor in a large pool of blood. Her body was nearly naked. On her neck, back, and chest were dozens of stab wounds. The blood was still fresh, splattered across the kitchen floor and walls. Chris Short immediately called 911, then called NCIS Special Agent Dana Shutt, the one investigating Hickey's sexual abuse case. His voice was shaking. "My daughter. The bastard killed her." The crime scene. Sergeant Robert McDaniel was one of the first to arrive at the scene. He'd witnessed countless violent cases in his career, but even he had to step back to regain his composure. When I got there, I couldn't really tell who it was. I just knew it was a teenage girl. Then I stepped out of the house, and that's when I saw Chris Short. When I saw Chris, I realized that was Meghan on the floor, McDaniel recalled. Years later, when interviewed, he said, "As far as the severity, the gruesomeness, this is the worst." The forensic team was quickly deployed. What they discovered painted a picture of a crime filled with hatred and brutality. In Meghan's ground floor bedroom, the window was broken. The intruder entered here. Bedding was disturbed, showing signs of struggle. Under the bed, they found a roll of duct tape. Semen samples were found on bedding and the victim's clothing. Clearly, Meghan had been bound and assaulted here in the kitchen, where the victim was killed. Meghan lay in a large pool of blood, nearly naked. Over 40 stab wounds on her neck, chest, back, and other parts of her body. One knife from the kitchen knife set was missing from the block. The knife was found in the sink, with blood and fingerprints. Blood was smeared on door handles and multiple locations. NCIS Special Agent Dana Shutt, who knew Meghan from the previous investigation, was stunned when she got the call. When I received the call of her death, I was shocked. We knew her. We knew her family. It was devastating. Criminal psychology analysis. Criminal profiling experts determined, with over 40 stab wounds, the killer didn't just want to murder. He carried horrific hatred. This wasn't a random robbery or simple homicide. This was punishment, the complete destruction of the victim. The sexual assault, combined with wounds far beyond what was necessary to cause death, indicated the killer had a personal connection with the victim. This was someone who knew Meghan, someone who may have been rejected or insulted by her. Could this be revenge? Or Part 3. The Hunt for the Killer. Suspect. 21. Robert Hickey. Immediately, all arrows pointed to Robert Hickey. His motive was crystal clear. Meghan had reported him for sexual abuse. The upcoming court-martial could cost him everything. If Meghan died, there'd be no key witness. The case might be dropped. Meghan's parents were completely convinced Hickey was the killer. Chris Short called Agent Shutt right after discovering the body and said, "The bastard killed her." But the investigation showed Hickey had a solid alibi. That day, he was at work all day, then went to marriage counseling with his wife. Colleagues confirmed Hickey never left the base during the time of the murder. More importantly, at the crime scene, police collected DNA samples from semen on Meghan's body. They took Hickey's DNA sample and sent it for testing. The results shocked everyone. Robert Hickey's DNA did not match. Hickey was not the killer. Dead end and expanded investigation. With the main suspect ruled out, police had to consider other possibilities. Chris Short, Meghan's stepfather. He was the first to discover the body, had access to the crime scene. Could he have staged it to frame his best friend? Chris's DNA was tested, no match. Angela Short and other family members. All were ruled out after DNA testing. Police expanded the investigation to Meghan's school. They interviewed dozens of classmates and teachers, searching for any clues about someone who had threatened or shown unusual interest in Meghan. Meghan's best friend, Heather Corll, couldn't provide useful information. She said Meghan never mentioned anyone threatening her. Some classmates spread rumors that Meghan had recently seemed anxious and didn't want to be home alone. But after verification, police discovered it was just because Meghan liked hanging out with friends, not because she was afraid of anyone. Police collected DNA samples from all male students at Meghan's school. Not one matched. They checked all of Meghan's social media accounts, emails, messages, and online activity to find signs she knew the killer through the internet. No abnormalities found. 6 months passed. The case hit a complete dead end. New technology, biogeographical ancestry analysis. In desperation, police and NCIS decided to use cutting-edge technology, biogeographical ancestry analysis. This technique allows determination of a person's racial characteristics based on DNA. The DNA sample collected at the crime scene was sent to a specialized laboratory. Results showed the killer had genetic characteristics of African descent. Though not absolutely accurate, this information significantly narrowed the suspect pool. NCIS's unique investigation methods. NCIS deployed several special tactics to gather clues. 1. Filming the memorial. Shortly after Meghan's death, a candlelight vigil was held outside her home. NCIS agents secretly filmed and recorded the event, hoping the killer would appear. Many criminal profilers note that murderers often return to the scene or attend their victim's funeral. 2. Recording gravestone. NCIS created a granite gravestone equipped with recording and filming capabilities, placed at a memorial park dedicated to Meghan in Portsmouth. They hoped the killer would return to visit the victim. Despite these creative efforts, they yielded no breakthrough. Meghan's 17th birthday was approaching. It would be her first birthday in the grave. Angela Short choked back tears. "We still don't know who killed her. I can't stand this feeling of helplessness." Sergeant McDaniel was also haunted by Meghan's question. Will he come back and kill me? And his wrong answer. Would justice ever be served? The breakthrough from a memorial. September 2008, nearly 5 months after Meghan's death, a memorial march was held on what would have been her 17th birthday. It was the first birthday Meghan wouldn't be with her family. At the event, a woman, Meghan's former bus driver, approached police. She told them about a student who used to ride the bus with Meghan, a boy who seemed to like her. That name was Robert Barnes. Barnes, 16, was a student at the Governor's School for the Arts, the prestigious art school where Meghan also attended part-time alongside her main school. He was a violin virtuoso, excellent student, polite, with no criminal record. He'd visited Meghan's home many times. The Short family considered Barnes a friend of their daughter. Why hadn't police interviewed him before? The first meeting. Sergeant Robert McDaniel went to the art school to meet Robert Barnes. The initial conversation seemed routine. When asked about Meghan, Barnes described her as a nice girl, a good person. But when McDaniel asked, "Are you willing to provide a DNA sample?" Barnes fell silent. After a moment, he said, "My mother won't agree." Legally, at 17, Barnes could make his own decisions. His refusal made McDaniel suspicious, especially since Barnes's race matched the DNA analysis results from the crime scene. McDaniel didn't pressure him. He just left his card and said, "If you change your mind, give me a call." The mysterious chewing gum. The next day, Barnes proactively contacted him again. At their meeting at school, he handed McDaniel a piece of half-chewed gum, placed in a rubber glove. "This is my DNA sample," Barnes said. McDaniel took the gum for testing, hoping this would be the key to solving the nearly 6-month-old case. But just days later, a phone call from the lab left him stunned. "Are you sure he was the one who chewed this gum?" the technician asked. "I was standing right there. I saw him chewing. It then put it in the glove himself," McDaniel answered. But the test results showed the gum sample did not contain Robert Barnes's DNA. It was DNA from a female. Barnes had deliberately switched the DNA sample. Why would an innocent teenager do that? The decisive interrogation. October 23, 2008, 6.5 months after Meghan's death, Robert Barnes was officially summoned to Portsmouth Police Station. When notified, Barnes would be interrogated. NCIS Special Agent Dana Shutt, who was on maternity leave and attending training in Georgia, immediately drove 8.5 hours to Portsmouth. She couldn't miss this interrogation. In the interrogation room, McDaniel didn't beat around the bush. "You know the DNA sample you gave us was from a female, right?" Barnes flinched, but tried to stay calm. And then, in a moment of carelessness, Barnes slipped up. "What happened that Thursday?" McDaniel felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Until that moment, no one outside law enforcement knew the exact day of the week Meghan was murdered. They'd only announced the time as April 10th, never specifically mentioning it was Thursday. Only the killer would know that detail. Barnes's strange story. Realizing he'd exposed himself, Barnes began telling a story that sounded like a Hollywood screenplay. "Meghan invited me to her house. When I got there, she didn't open the door, so I climbed through the bedroom window. And when I got inside, I saw a man wearing a mask, pointing a gun at Meghan. According to Barnes, the masked man forced him to tie up Meghan with duct tape, then forced him to assault her right in front of him. Meghan kept begging, 'Don't do it! Don't do it!' Then, the stranger led them both downstairs to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and stabbed Meghan to death. I don't know who he was. I was forced to do it," Barnes insisted. NCIS Special Agent Bill Martin commented. "Nobody believed the story," McDaniel said. "Very unlikely to ever happen that way." Why? All evidence at the crime scene pointed to only one person. Only one set of fingerprints, Barnes's. Only one set of shoe prints, Barnes's. Only DNA from Barnes and Meghan. No third person. No trace whatsoever of a masked man. Moreover, Barnes knew too many details only the killer would know. The exact location of the knife, the type of duct tape used, the sequence of events, binding, assault, going downstairs to the kitchen, killing, the day of the week the murder occurred. Evidence from the computer. When investigators searched Barnes's computer, they discovered something terrifying. Barnes had photoshopped his own image into a news article about an elderly woman who was robbed and raped. Criminal psychology experts determined Barnes was immersed in a fantasy world of home invasion and committing rape. This wasn't the behavior of a normal teenager. This was a sign of someone nurturing violent fantasies. The arrest. While Barnes was telling his masked man story, his mother appeared at the police station. Barnes's mother. "Is he under arrest? That's all I want to know." Turns to Barnes. "Don't say nothing else." Right then, Detective Funkhauser, the lead investigator, entered the room. "Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you. Robert, I'm Detective Funkhauser. I'm the lead investigator on this case, okay?" Handcuffs Barnes. "I'm just going to let you know that you are under arrest for the murder of Meghan Landowski." Special Agent Dana Shutt recalled. "I will never forget October 23rd. I drove 8.5 hours from Georgia to Portsmouth. I had to be there." Part 4. The Trial and Aftermath. Guilty plea. September 2009, Robert Barnes, now 17, pleaded guilty to the charges: first-degree murder, attempted rape, aggravated sexual battery, abduction, statutory burglary. Meghan's family accepted the plea deal to avoid facing horrific images in court. Angela Short said, "We opted for a plea deal. We did not want to face trial because we didn't want to see pictures." At sentencing, Barnes gave no motive. He only admitted to sexually assaulting and murdering Meghan. Barnes was sentenced to 148 years in prison, with 42 years mandatory without suspension. The earliest Barnes could be considered for parole is 2045, when he'll be 53 years old. Vor facing the killer. At the hearing, Meghan's parents had to face Robert Barnes. Angela Short, the grieving mother, was invited to the witness stand. She looked directly into Barnes's eyes and said, "Robert, we treated you like family. We loved you like a brother. But you took her life. You have to live with that for the rest of your life. And I hope you see her every day." Angela Short's voice broke, tears streaming down her face. Why? The unanswered question. To this day, no one knows exactly why Robert Barnes killed Meghan. Barnes never gave a clear motive. Investigators could only speculate based on evidence. Barnes may have had feelings for Meghan and been rejected by her. He may have been nurturing violent fantasies for a long time. Psychological instability combined with poor emotional control. Angela Short said, "He was a good kid. Something in him broke. I'll never know why." Sergeant McDaniel offered a theory based on behavioral analysis. Barnes may have had something missing inside and had the ability to shut off emotions, the ability to feel and care about what happens to other people. In other words, Barnes may have had characteristics of antisocial personality disorder, lacking empathy, lacking conscience, capable of committing crimes without feeling guilt. The price of complacency. The Meghan Landowski case left many painful lessons. 1. Killers aren't always the obvious suspects. Everyone was convinced Robert Hicka, the man Meghan reported, was the killer. But the real murderer was Barnes, a gentle teenager no one suspected. 2. Appearances can be deceiving. Barnes was a talented violin virtuoso, excellent student, polite. No one imagined he could commit such a brutal crime. 3. The importance of DNA and forensic science. Without DNA analysis technology, the case might never have been solved. 4. Persistence in investigation. NCIS and Portsmouth police worked tirelessly for 6 months, interviewing hundreds of people, collecting over 80 DNA samples, using the most advanced technology. Special Agent Dana Shutt said, "What I'm most proud of about this investigation is the absolute determination of all the agents, detectives, and officers involved in finding Meghan's killer. This case was solved through the hard work of both Portsmouth Police Department and NCIS." Meghan's legacy. Today, Sergeant Robert McDaniel still can't forget Meghan. Every time he drives past the house where she was murdered, he still sees the crime scene in his mind. In my mind, everything remains just as it was that day. So years later, if I close my eyes and drive past that place, I can still see it. Meghan's family never returned to the Portsmouth house. They couldn't live with those memories. Meghan Landowski, a beautiful, intelligent, brave dancer, died when her life had barely begun. She didn't deserve such a brutal death, but her story must be remembered. It's a reminder that danger can come from those we trust most, and that even the smallest complacency can cost a life. The Meghan Landowski case isn't just a personal tragedy. It's a wake-up call for society about predators hiding in the most ordinary disguises. Robert Barnes wasn't a street thug, not an adult with a criminal record, not someone everyone would suspect. He was a model student, valued by his school, welcomed into Meghan's family home like one of their own. That's why Meghan never suspected him. She saw Barnes as family, and that's the greatest tragedy. Lessons for us all. For parents, pay attention to behavioral changes in your children. Listen when they share. Never think, that could never happen to my family. For society, we need better mental health support systems for teenagers. We need to identify signs of psychological instability early. We need education about emotional control and conflict resolution. for law enforcement. This case proves the power of forensic science, DNA, and persistence in investigation. Never give up. Every clue, no matter how small, could be the key. Meghan Landowski bravely stood up to report abuse. She chose truth over silence. Though young, she understood right from wrong and didn't let wrongdoers escape justice. That courage deserves respect. Her death should not be forgotten. Her story must be told, not to create fear, but to remind us that justice may come late, but it's never absent. Thank you for joining us on the Case Files. If this story touched you, please take a moment to hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight. Remember, stay vigilant, stay safe, and never ignore your instincts. Until next time, this is the Case Files, where every case tells a story and every story demands justice.